and I took that Valium, and before I knew it, I fell off the couch onto the floor. It was pitch black dark. I began to quiver. I began to have the shakes, and I began going down and down and down like a deep pit. And I started smelling the stench of hell. It's the most rottenest thing that you can ever smell in your life. In fact, you can't even imagine it. I began to feel a tugging and pulling. Like the Bible says, demons tug and nag at you. They was calling my name. Lord say, we got you, we got you, we got you. You belong to us now.
There's lots of other people in this train station. And so I turn to my left and I can see a big giant door with like glass squares all over the door. And you can tell it's glass, but whatever's on the other side is completely pitch black. And so I'm looking at this door and it's pitch black on the other side. So I'm thinking maybe it's nighttime on the other side of the door. And I turned to my grandpa and I put my hand on his face and I said, you were always my real grandpa. And I love you very, very much. And then I started to feel this weird pulling sensation. Like, I don't know, just like it. I don't know, just like I felt like I was being pulled. So I started walking towards the door. I opened the door and I walk into the blackness. Now this is where, and this was really scary. These things, these hands were grabbing me. They were like, grabbing at me and like ripping at my arms. I could feel it. It was so real. You could feel the claws. You could feel them like around you. You could feel the deep darkness. You could feel it. And I'm walking through all this and I'm scared, out of my mind scared. And so I remember when I was little, because my grandmother is Catholic, she taught me this prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So I started saying that prayer, and I'm walking through all these hands that are grabbing at me. I'm like just scared out of my mind. And I start saying the prayer, and the things start mocking me. Whatever these things are, they're like, like that. They're saying stuff like that to me while I'm praying. But I do feel like me saying that prayer gave me strength to be in whatever situation I was in. Although they were mocking me and trying to grab at me, whatever I was saying or doing was protecting me from being pulled in by them. And then I see a light and I'm like, okay, I gotta go for this light because it's so dark here. I cannot spend any more time here. And so I start running as fast as I can for this light. The only way, I get closer and closer to the light, and it feels like I'm a big thing and I'm being pushed into a smaller thing. Like maybe like I'm like a ball, like a giant fuzzy ball or something, and I'm being pushed into a bottle. Like like pushed in, and I felt tons of pain, so much physical pain. And I remember just like crying out, and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And Jesus came. And I know it was Jesus because I could feel it. I could hear it. I could maybe feel it. And I felt it. And he says to me, you have to go back because there's stuff you need to do and you haven't finished what you need to do. And I was fighting it so hard. I was like, no, I don't want to stop. No, this is terrible. I feel all this pain. It's terrible. I don't want to be in this little shrunken thing. It's like I'm being stuck into this bottle. It's horrible. And finally, and it felt like 100 years of talking. Finally, I felt myself just like relax and give in. I was just like, fine, okay, I get it. So I just And I felt myself like slime almost, just sucked back into this place. And I woke up a couple of days later, and there was a police officer by my hospital door. He was there to protect me. And I felt even more stronger, closer to that other side.
So I got really frustrated.
Carl decided it was time to get out of the Army by going AWOL. He hitchhiked to Ohio to see an old friend. He then went on a 2-week drug binge. One night, Carl went to a crack house in the worst part of Columbus, Ohio.
You can smell the stench of the crack cocaine. You can smell the stench of the marijuana. People was high and laying all across the floors.
Carl smoked some crack and started drinking alcohol and using other drugs. But he says he believes it was the last pill he took that sent him on a journey to hell.
And I took that Valium, and before I knew it, I fell off the couch onto the floor. It was pitch black dark. I began to quiver. I began to have the shakes, and I began going down and down and down like a deep pit. And I started smelling the stench of hell. It's the most rottenest thing that you can ever smell in your life. In fact, you can't even imagine it. I began to feel a tugging and pulling. Like the Bible says, demons tug and nag at you. They was calling my name. Boy, say, we got you, we got you, we got you. You belong to us now.
Like dizzy, I was sweating profusely. I told my wife to call 911. She did, and I was rushed to the hospital. In the ambulance, I coded. I flatlined. When I flatlined, I was felt like my energy and my soul was thrown from the ambulance. And it was like I ended up in front of the hospital. A demon was chasing me from there. I didn't state earlier, but when I was in the room with my wife and we were waiting on 911, we were waiting on the ambulance to come, I saw a dark figure in the corner of my room. I really didn't know what it was or what it wanted. And I saw that figure again after I was thrown from the ambulance. I saw it it was chasing me and saying derogatory things to me. I laid down on the ground as it was chasing me because I got a sharp pain all through my body. And then after that, I laid on the ground, and I just felt a sense of urgency again, like really panicky. And I started to fall. Everything went black. I started to fall, and I felt a falling sensation, and then everything just suspended. And I was suspended in the air like in a black void. And from there, I kept calling out and help me, please, God, help me. I had remembered my mother saying to me, if you ask for forgiveness, you would not go to hell. And I believed at that point that I was going to hell. So I was just praying out to God to please help me. Please forgive me of my sins. And then I started to fall again, and I ended up on a rock, and I was like in a hole, and there were rocks all around. They were sharp. I couldn't see my body or feel my body, but somehow I knew these rocks were sharp, and they were hot to the touch. And I heard demons below me. Well, I call them demons, but I heard demons below me saying, oh, you need to come down here with us. And they were just demonic beings. I couldn't see them. It was still dark. I could see the rocks, but I couldn't see anything else. I heard a voice call out to me and said, it is not your time, child, but you must prove yourself. You must climb yourself out of this hole. I started climbing. I didn't know if I was going to make it out of the hole. All I knew is I needed to get to this voice that was calling me to come to him, basically.
She had her boyfriend with her. And when she came to my place, she offered me a tablet. And not realizing I was actually taking nine doses, enough to probably kill 9 people of ecstasy. And I'd asked her, are you sure this is okay? You know, is it safe to take? It won't kill me. She said, oh no, there's no chance that I don't think it would kill you. There's not many people that have ever really died except from dehydration. So stupidly, I took this tablet. I took one tablet. It was the strongest one that you can get. So there was a lot of doses in it. I started to feel extremely thirsty. I went running to the tap. And I drank a lot of water at the tap, but not enough that should have like swamped me, but I drank quite a bit of water. And then I started to feel like something wasn't right, you know, and so I went into my room and I curled up in fetal position on the floor. And I actually, at that moment, I died, but I didn't realize, you know, that I died. And I just was sort of dark for a minute, it was like I passed out. And it was dark for a minute. The next thing that I saw was I was up on the ceiling looking down on my body, and my body had actually looked like it was changing colour to a darker colour. So I didn't recognise that at that moment. I didn't recognise that as my body. My soul didn't connect that I was actually dead. When I said, wow, I looked to my left in the lounge and I saw from the windows growing a green meadow. And it just sprung forward and just took over the lounge and started growing towards me. And as it grew towards me, it pushed my soul out of the lounge, and I actually found myself trying to get back in, but being locked out by the meadows. And I realize now that what was holding me out of paradise was my sin of the things that I did wrong against people, and God had created it was like an embryonic sac, you know, like the sac that holds a baby. It was see-through, and I was trying to get back in to my friends, so I didn't realize I was dead. And I remember trying to push in, and as I tried to push in, this embryonic sac molded around my body, but I couldn't go no further. So the wall was here, and then my body dipped in like this, and then it just went straight again. And I looked down and I could see beautiful grass. I could see the dewdrop, like the dewdrop on top of the grass, and it was just so beautiful. And at that point, I remember giving up because I just couldn't push my way through. And I didn't realize I was dead. All I was trying to do, I wanted to go back in and see my friends. And I came out, and I saw in the ground a grey vortex. And it was a hole in the ground. But in that hole in the ground was 3 gargoyles. And I thought it was curious, like I didn't realize it was evil. I just thought it was very unusual. And I didn't know what it was, and I was quite confused. These gargoyles were like a grey type muddy colour. And now I realise what they were was demons. So I was sort of curious about what it was. And I came around, and my friend Steve, he was standing in the kitchen, and he was looking down, and he was standing facing me. And I said, Steve, what's that hole in the ground? And he didn't answer, didn't acknowledge me, nothing. And I thought, oh, maybe he didn't hear me. Let's try and say it loud. And I said, Steve, what's that hole in the ground? And I looked at the hole in the ground, and I heard a voice say to me, don't go near that hole in the ground. And when they said, don't go near that hole in the ground, a rebellion, like something took over me. I could see my friend's boyfriend sitting at on the chair. And I felt like if I didn't check out that hole, I felt like I would be seen as a coward. So something took over me, and it felt like a dare, a type feeling you get when you have a dare and you have to do it, but you're scared. And I got this feeling, and I started running towards like I couldn't stop myself from going towards this vortex. And when I came close, sorry, no, that was just before I had that deer feeling, was I saw that gargoyle and he smiled at me, and his smile was from about there, it went from there to there, and it was like sharp rows of teeth all the way around, and he just smiled like, I've got you. And when I actually got to the vortex, I looked down and I can see, like, it looks like the demons were enclosed into the side of the walls. And I caught a glimpse of that, and I don't actually know how I fell into there. I think I might have been snatched in. So when I actually got snatched into the vortex, I smelt a smell of thousands of year old rotting flesh. And it was like the smell you get from a graveyard. You get that sort of death smell. Well, this was about 2 billion times worse, 1 billion times worse. It was like a graveyard smell mixed with poop, mixed with rotting, burning flesh, and it smelt like whoever was down there had been down there for thousands of years just burning. I just got the realization that it was burning people. I got like, as I was falling, is when I looked up and I saw the light, the glory of God, the light, everything was disappearing above me. And in that instant, I got the realization that I'd left my body in my house, and that was my safe place. And terror took hold of me because I realized I made a huge mistake, and I left my safe place, and it was over. Like, at that moment, I realized I was dead, and I'd left my body in the lounge. So I left my body up there in my room. So as I was falling, it felt like sharp dust hitting my face, and it was just furiously ripping away at my face. And then I felt like a snake bite that bit my left arm, and as it bit my left arm, I felt a venom like go through my body, and that venom was like acid, and as it coursed through my body, it was actually burning, like it was corrosive like acid, and it took over like my body. And at that moment, I actually realized that this on my face was actually demon. Like, I didn't really think demons, but I knew it was something ripping away at my face. And I remember trying to slow down in the tunnel, and I managed to slow down, and I saw a little road. It was like an opening in the tunnel. And when I looked in there, I saw like a road that forked off around like this. And on the right-hand side was a door. And on the left-hand side was a door. And I went up to the door on my right. And as I opened it, I saw a demon standing there that looked like half bear. It looks like a shaggy type, half bear, half human, and it looks like his eyes they were like bulging, like they'd been pulled out and pushed back in. And it was like ravenous, like a monster that's waiting to tear someone to pieces, just raging look is what it looked. And I thought to myself, oh no, I hope he hadn't seen me. And so, and behind him was a valley, like a whole room, and a valley of demons, just demons, and they were standing close together, looking down like this at the wall. But the one at the door was the scariest looking one, the shade. And I remember going past the door on my right to try and escape. And at this stage, I was quite nervous, and I tried to open this door, but no matter how hard I try and open the door, I could not open it. I managed to open it a crack and have a look, and I can see shades of grey, different shades of ghostly type grey, real dead type looking colours, like a fog type looking. And I couldn't open it, so I went running to try and find another way out, but the demon actually caught up to me And then he pushed me down and he lay on top of my spirit body. And I was just terrified. I don't know what he was trying to do to me. I thought he was going to assault me, but you know what I mean. He was just like smothering me for a minute and I couldn't move and I just felt complete terror. And the whole time this was going on, it was like every good feeling that you could have on earth was gone and all I was left with was complete. So what I was left with was everything good had gone that you could feel on this earth, and what was left was just horror, total terror. For years after, I actually felt worms crawling through my body all over me. That was what I was feeling in hell. And that didn't go away for years and years. I had to live with that. But what happened was he sort of smothered me, the demon smothered me, and he wanted to push me back down the tunnel towards hell. Sorry. And I actually jumped back down to get away from him because he was so terrifying. I gladly jumped back down into hell to get away from that demon. And as I fell, I was falling, and then I felt a heat come over me. Sorry, my ears are blocked. I felt like a heat come over me, like a furnace, but it was burning like acid, like I'd been dipped in acid, like a really corrosive burn. And just as I thought it couldn't get any worse, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse because there's no barrier of pain. Your spirit doesn't have any barrier, your body does, but there's no pain barrier, and the burn like got so bad that I actually melted. My whole spirit, it melted, and I heard a scream beneath me, and I looked down, and when I looked down, I saw like a volcano. You know what a black volcano looks like? Well, it looks like a black volcano, but with no lava. And I just got the feeling this was another land, like a strange land that no one knew about, And I actually went bang down to the bottom of the tunnel, and I was still feeling this complete terror taking over me, but it was getting worse and worse the closer I got to hell. In hell, the worse my terror became, because I'm not sure if it was because of the unknown or just the way that everything exists down there. But I was at the opening of a tunnel, and I tried to look for an entrance to go back up to try and find my way out, but it actually closed over me, so there was no way out. And I looked to my right, and the wall down the bottom had lava, had burning, lava, like fire. And then I looked to my left, and it was like the opening of a cavern, and I was still sort of hidden in that opening. And I thought, oh, I better hide, let's try and hide. But when I said that, it came out like yelling. My thoughts were coming out like I was yelling, and I heard it echo back to me around hell. And then I saw a demon noticed me and said, what are you doing over there? You have to be over here. And I looked over, and it was like the opening of a cavern, and in front of me was hell, and it was a black darkness, and it gave me the just feeling of terror looking at it. It was scary. And the demon came hurrying over to me, and I tried to run around that way to get away. But as I tried to run, the wall actually like threw me up into the air, and I went up and over and smashed into the back, and the back wall picked me up and smashed me down in front of the demons. I was banged down, my face planted into the ground, and it was like I was perceiving my own destruction. Like I could see at certain points of this NDE, I could see what was happening to me. Like my my soul took a step back to look at my spirit, because we're made up out of soul, spirit, and body. So we're like triune, like God is a triune being, and we're made in his image, so we're triune soul, spirit, body. And it seemed like I stepped back and I had a look at my soul at that point, and I could see, like, this sounds weird, but I actually had long eyelashes with dewdrops on the end. That's what my soul looks like, and I was an amber colour. I saw my face as having like an amber colour, and this demon said, "You come with me now, otherwise we're going to skin your arms." And I don't know why, I said, "Are you kidding?" is what I thought. "Are you kidding?" Like, I don't know, that sounds so stupid that I thought that in hell, but when I said that, he didn't hesitate. He grabbed hold of my arm, this arm, and then he proceeded to skin me, but I wanted to look away, and so I looked away like this while he skinned me, my arm, and he said, "No, but you have to look." And at that moment, it was like I was forced to whatever he said that I had to do, I did. And I looked down, and I could see I had like a body in hell. I had tendons, I had everything like that you have on this earth. And I could see where he skinned my arm, but it was blue, and my spirit body was a dead blue looking colour. So, and I never read the Bible before I had this NDE. I was into Wicca when I died. I believed in reincarnation, but yeah, that was my belief when I passed away. But after he skinned me, he took me towards this darkness. And when we got there, I actually saw cages like prison cells, black prison cells. And above the prison cells was Roman numerals. So that the count of the prison cells was done in Roman numerals. And as I came towards my cell, and I was put into my cell, I saw the darkness reach out and wrap a tail. It took form of like a creature. So this darkness was alive, and it wrapped itself around the bars of my cell. And the demon stood up against the darkness, and he said to me, "I'll be back soon to torture you." And at that, as he disappeared, I started to panic, and all I could think about was my next torture session. And I was freaking out. My soul was freaking out. I was trying to get in between the bars. I was trying everything to get out, and I saw a mock key. And I put the key in, and as I turned it, the key, I had my whole cell moved, and it was like a brick scraping sound that it made. And I thought, oh, great, I'm getting somewhere. Maybe I'll find a way out. That's what I was thinking. And it did that, and then I'd stop and I'd try the key again, and then it would go further till I realised I was actually, my whole like cell was teetering over a black pit. And so if that was the black pit, my cell was teetering sideways down it. And I turned around and I remember grasping, I thought, this is dangerous, this is not a good idea. I grasped the bars, and as I looked into the darkness, I actually felt eternity. Like, I felt there's no more time. This is where I am forever. I'm doomed. And I saw like what I thought was like earth up the top of hell. I could see a picture, like a window into earth. And that was even more torturing to me. Like, it was tormenting, but I just wanted to get back to that place. I just wanted to get back to earth. That was a desperation in me that wanted to get back there, but I was stuck in eternity with no way out. And later I actually read in the Bible, I read that in Abraham's bosom there's a window, and that window looks into heaven from hell. So when you're in hell, it's even more tormenting because you can actually see heaven from where you are. But what I thought it was earth, and it was a very beautiful garden that I was seeing. It looked like a beautiful garden with pastel colours. It was a lush, beautiful garden. But I actually thought it was earth that I was looking at. But I was grasping my bars, and I says, "God, please help me." And I waited for a second, and I thought, oh, nothing's happening. And then after I waited for a wee moment, I heard arguing. I heard arguing with a group of people, and one person arguing, and it got really rowdy and quite loud. And they were actually arguing over my soul, like if the devil can have it. And he wanted to keep me there. But I heard arguing, and then I heard it's not her time yet. And I thought, this can't be about me, because you can't actually, there's no hope. You can't hope for anything. And I wasn't able to hope that maybe that could be for me. I thought it must be for someone else. That can't be about me. At that moment, things actually got really bad for me. And it was like a black type death took over my body, because I had that flash where I can see myself again. And I saw my eyeballs were black, like there was no eyes. It was like a darkness had taken over the inside of me, and it was spreading through my body. And it was the most horrible torment, and I was just saw myself grasping the bars. And then I heard a really, really kind voice, and I heard him say, "I've come to get you out." And then I heard someone, I'm not sure where he unlocked me from, but the front of my bars, they just opened. And it was like the minute they opened, this blackness, it just broke off me. And I looked to the side, and I can see like black cells going as far as the eye could see. It just went on and on and on and on and on, cell up on cell up on cell up on cell. And there was like a separating line of dirt there, but the darkness is just left. It was like the minute God entered, the darkness fled, and there was no more of that darkness around the bars, and I could see everything properly for the first time, the cells, everything. And I like walked out, and as I walked out, I turned back. I had a feeling to look back, and then I walked and I looked back one more time, and to my left I saw like an old lady. At first I couldn't tell who it was, but this lady was a family member. But what I saw when I came around that corner and I looked, this lady was just muscle, and I can just see the bone, the muscle, everything was burnt, and then it just grew back. So it was like an invisible fire that was burning her, and then the flesh, everything grew back, and I realised it was actually my grandmother. And I went running towards the bars, and I started to shake on the bars, and I just couldn't open it. And so I heard behind me a voice say, you can't get her out. And I just felt hopeless, and I felt terrible that she was going to be left in there. And at that moment he said, "I've got the keys," and he went around and locked my grandmother. And she came around and she took my left hand, and I saw at the edge of hell, at the very edge of hell, an opening appeared in the side of hell. And I saw a garden. And as I stepped in there, when I stepped in there with my nan, the actual whole place lit up with light. And I could hardly see the flowers. I could hardly see the garden because the light was so bright. And everything exuded, like the trees, the flowers. And as I took a step, it was like everything would greet me with this refreshing, would wash through my soul. And it would be like, ah. And then the next step was even more of a powerful, refreshing feeling. It was like stepping into crystal, like stepping into purity, refreshment, quietness, and every step become more and more. So the deeper you go into heaven, the more amazing and powerful. Yeah. So at that moment, I felt like I didn't have the merit to walk on any further. I took about 4 steps, I think. I felt I didn't have the merit to be in heaven. And then I heard my nan say, "You can't," what did she say? "You can't come any further. You have to go back," or along those lines. She dropped my hand, and I says, "Why?" And I felt quite angry. I think I may have tried to scratch her hand, and the just wall straight away, because there's no sin in heaven. A wall, bang, came over me and locked me out of heaven straight away. I turned and I started trying to scramble to get out of this place, trying to find a way. I'm not sure if I was trying to find a way out or trying to find a way back in. I think I was just desperate to get out of there, and I was scared because of what I just experienced. I think I was terrified of what was going to happen to me. And on my right, I looked and I saw a ball of bronze flame, and the bronze flame around this person was sparkling. And through the bronze flame, I saw in the right hand, I saw stars sparkling in his hand. And I later found in Revelations that those stars are the churches that Jesus holds in his hand. And so I came closer towards him, and then the flames, everything subsided, and I can see what he looks like. And I saw two forms of Jesus. At the start off when I saw him in his glorified form, and at the end of the NDE, I saw him in his earthly form of what he looks like when he was on earth. And he had jet black hair, ivory skin, and he was so beautiful. I actually said, "Oh my gosh, he's handsome." And the minute I said that, I got knocked back. So my soul practically flew backwards, and it was like I was placed. I felt really ashamed that I had thought that, because he had an air of king, like a king, really like an air of extreme importance. And when I saw him first, and the flames subsided, he was looking down and he looked very serious. So he was thinking about something and contemplating about something very, very serious. Like a father contemplates when their child's done something naughty and they're wondering of what to do. So when I saw him and I got pushed back, I was standing here and I sort of felt, oh no, he can hear my thoughts, is what I thought. And I felt ashamed that I thought that, and he heard it. Then as I looked up, he started almost float. It was like he had joy on his face, and he started shining, and his innermost being was shooting out shafts of light, blinding light. And he started almost like he was floating towards me, and he had a huge smile on his face of joy. And as he came towards me, my knees collapsed underneath me and went bang on the ground, and it was involuntary, and my soul came out and was trying to look, why did my knees do that? Yes, I was very puzzled, and sort of, why did my knees collapse beneath me in front of him and bang against the floor? And I didn't realize it was God. Like, I don't know why I was so dizzy in the afterlife and why I couldn't put two and two together. I think because I didn't really have God in my life. I wasn't living, I didn't have a relationship with God, so I felt I was a bit lost there. I didn't realize he was God, but he tried to show me, but he showed me light coming out of his body, which was the eternity sign that goes like this and joins back in together. And that was coming out like this. And he was shining that, I think, trying to show me that, hi, I'm God, this is God. So he's trying to show me with symbols of who he was, so I would get it. When I was in hell, I don't know why, but I forgot that I had a family on earth. Like, I didn't have any memory. Like, I think the traumatic experience was so overriding that I think all I could think about was how to get out of there. I'm not sure, but he had to remind me that I had family on earth that I had to go back to. So he said to me, though, if you go back, you'll never be the same again. So I think he was trying to warn me of the trauma I was about to go through if I went back to earth. So, sorry. My legs are getting a bit sore. Yes, so he said, if you go back, you're never going to be the same again. And at that point, I really started panicking. I really started panicking because I needed to go back to my family, and I was scared. And I saw Jesus' earthly form. At that point, I saw his earthly form. In his earthly form, he had beautiful eyes, dark eyes, and he had shoulder length, like light brown hair. His glorified form, it can actually be found in Song of Solomon. He has ivory skin. He has the jettest black hair, so jet black that you can pick him. If there was a crowd of people, you would know instantly that was Jesus because of how jet black his hair was. And when I look back now at my NDE and remember what he looked like it describes Jesus as the son of David, and he suits that to a T, that name. But he wore a one piece. At one time on his earthly form, I could see a one piece coat with no stitches in it. And I think they call that the robe of righteousness. But I do remember that I read in the Bible that he has this one piece coat with no stitches. And when I saw him in his earthly form is when I actually got flung out of that place. And it was like a holding place. And I heard one of your guests talking about that holding place as if it's a place to protect you from something. I remember her speaking about that, but it was like a room, but a cavernous type room. And I was flung out of that place, and I was flung out. I could see myself above my roof, above my house. I was coming down from above, and I could see everything crystal clear like it was daytime. And it was like I was looking through tears. And I could see the trees, everything looked fresh and pristine. And I saw my roof coming towards me. And as I saw my roof, I actually came through like this, standing up, and I came through the timber of my roof, and I actually saw the wood pass before my eyes like this. And I actually went through the timber boards of my roof and came down in front of the doorway to where I died. And I was standing slightly above that doorway looking down. So my feet were above the ground. And I heard panic in the voices of my friends. And they were panicking. They were saying, ring the ambulance, ring the police. My female friend was arguing that, about the police, or did we have to ring them? And my good friend, he sounded almost in tears. And so they were actually, what was happening was they were ringing for the morgue. And that gave me such a shock that I shot back into my body, and I came to in my body. And I was saying, he got me out, he got me out, he got me out. That's all I could say when I was just huge relief. He got me out. I was so relieved to be back. And then I actually died again. I think this drug was so heavy for my body, I was actually having trouble staying alive. And I died a second time. And when I died, immediately the vortex of hell started moving towards me again. And as I came back to life, I actually came back to life roaring, like, because of the filth and the what is in hell. It's just horrible. The state without God is so horrifying. The worms and then the rotting flesh smell, everything, it was just too much. And it was like being in a vat of filth. It was like the feeling I got from being in hell was filth that I could not wash. Like years after, I couldn't wash the dirt off my soul. It was so bad. It is like being constantly. That is the feeling of being in hell. I can't describe it to anything else but not being able to wash the filth off your body. And I'm sorry it's a bit graphic, but it was a bad NDE, really, really bad NDE. Like it was very traumatic, and the demon that I saw actually reminded me of someone who abused me on earth, and he actually said, I'm coming back soon, and he was going to me. He abused me, and he said, I'll be back soon. He was going to come back to me. And that demon, I think that demon that I saw was the demon that must have got this person to influence them to hurt me. So, Yeah, hell's a horrible, horrible place though.
Blacked out and found out the cocaine allowed me to drink more and stay awake and not black out.
But the drugs and alcohol never came close to recreating that euphoric boyhood memory of heaven. So he came up with a most unlikely plan to return.
I just said, I can't live like this another day. At that moment, I chose to commit suicide. It was like a joy came over me. It would be the answer to all my problems, and I get to go back to heaven.
He bought his favorite gin and 3 bottles of sleeping pills, and then drove to a remote bird sanctuary near his home in Anchorage, Alaska. You swallow the pills one after another.
Right.
3 bottles.
Right.
You're drinking the gin.
Right.
You're in the front seat of your car.
Right. And I get a flash of light, and I'm suddenly outside. And I'm thinking, how the heck did I get out here? And I noticed that there's no color. Everything's gray. And I put my head back, and the moment I close my eye, there's another flash. And I'm in mid-free fall into a pit that's pitch black.
His lifelong wish to return to heaven had ended in a personal vision of hell. So it was hot.
It was extremely hot, very humid and dense. Smoke coming out of the ground. I am split into 7. 2 of me, I'm living in my past, and I'm experiencing all the people that I had met throughout my life. They would come to me and get within my face and start pushing and screaming, and I would relive a moment that I'd caused them pain.
Then he says he saw the suffering his death would eventually cause.
My mother, I was there when she collapsed, finding out I was dead from suicide. My daughter, she was 18, and she's sitting on the floor contemplating suicide because I wasn't there for her. It was on my hands and face, weeping, not just crying, but weeping for Jesus to save me.
How did you get out?
I was pretty much lifted up by the back of my neck and slowly, very slowly lifted out of this pit. A voice told me, you have work to do, and if you continue to live the life you are, this is where you're going to spend eternity.
But without any preparation, without any warning, I feel something grabs me from behind, and within a split second, I wake up in this pitch black place. I don't see nothing. I don't feel anything. I don't know where I am. All I feel is that something is holding me, like 100,000 pounds is on me, squashing me. Not normal pain. I feel this thing that is holding me is trying to pull me through a funnel, and the entire walls of the funnel are full of blades, and the more it's pulling me, it's like ripping pieces from my soul. And every time it rips a piece from my soul, I feel this not normal pain. And I don't know where I am, and I don't know what's holding me. I don't know anything. I just see this thick darkness, this universe of darkness, extremely, extremely scary, because I don't know where I am, I don't know how I got there, I don't know what's holding me, I don't know nothing. I just know that something is squashing me, excruciating pain, and it's like pulling me up, and every second it's becoming worse and worse, and excruciating pain. And it literally feels, I'm not exaggerating, maybe thousands of years that I'm in this darkness, in this dark bubble, and it's getting worse and worse and more painful and more scary. The most scariest part was that I didn't know if I'm ever going to get out of there. And there's really no words to describe the pain and the fear and everything. If I would try to explain it, it will take me hours just to try to explain every little thing that I saw and experienced. But just take my word that it was the most scariest, painful thing in the universe. And at some point I realized, where is it coming from? And it was coming from a very simple thing. that I didn't even have one little connection to God. Not even one string connecting me to God.
I was convinced that there was no way to live a completely happy life. And if I couldn't live happy, I didn't want to live at all. It began with a divorce, a broken home. And I believe that through that, my mentality began to form and began to develop a sense of rejection because I didn't understand. I was a small child and didn't understand adult things. And so I felt the breakup was all about me. That sense of rejection just really grew. I began to perceive myself as a burden to other people. And so I would take little bitty comments that were relatively insignificant. I would make it into a really big deal. Those little seeds in my life, I began meditating on over and over. And as I grew, the rejection began to grow. What is wrong with me? And so I believe that the only answer for me was to end my life. I walked to my mother's room thinking I don't want anyone to see me because I'm so determined to end my life, to end the void, to end the suffering, to end the loneliness, that nothing was going to stop me. I began crying out and I began screaming out to God, God, forgive me. And the gun went off. My lungs began to fill up with blood. My ears, I began to become deaf, very slowly, faintly become deaf. My eyes became blind. My eyes were open and I became blinded, and I knew that death was gripping my soul. And then all of a sudden, I felt myself, my soul, leave my body, and I instantly began falling and falling. And at that moment, I knew I was no longer in control of my destiny. And I ended up in a place that was complete torment. And my body was burning. I no longer was lonely. I was no longer depressed. I became depression. I became loneliness. I became a tormented being of fear. And as I began looking out and I saw all of these other people and everybody was screaming in pain, the mutual thing that everyone shared there was their desire to scream out to everybody on earth, do not come here. Acknowledge that life is about Jesus Christ. Eternity is real, and hell is real, and heaven is real, and how you live your life will determine where you go. And everybody cried out that their loved ones would hear the truth. I saw the hand of God literally come down, and at that moment, I knew that he was coming for me, and his hand picked me up. And instantaneously, I was no longer a being of tormented sin. I now was a being cleansed, and God took me over the heavens. It was beyond peaceful and gorgeous and magnificent. However, I was not allowed to stay, and I was certainly not allowed to see anything specific, but I was able to feel his presence in his entirety. I was able to feel perfect serenity. I was able to feel joy for the first time, complete, whole joy. And this hand just began to bring me back into the universe. And I saw myself coming back to my home and went through the ceiling, and the hand just went and placed me gently back into my physical body.